A shy farmer meets an Apache woman wearing a red dress that glows like fire at dusk. She asks, not out of desire, but out of hope for her people's survival. Yet, as they talk beneath an old cottonwood tree, a deeper connection emerges, one built on trust, courage, and the chance to belong to something greater than loneliness. Let's get started. The shy farmer paused mid, the hay bale resting against his knee. As the quiet of the field shifted, it wasn't the wind or the rustling cottonwoods that alerted him, it was presence. Something steady, something watching. He turned slowly, breath catching in his throat. At the far edge of his wheat field stood an Apache woman, poised like she had stepped out of the land itself. Her hair moved lightly with the breeze, her gaze steady and unreadable. For a moment, neither spoke, the silence stretching like a taut wire between two lives that had never meant to cross. She began walking toward him with unhurried steps, each one filled with a calm certainty he could never imagine possessing. The farmer's breath grew shallow. He had seen Apache riders from a distance, but never this close, never alone, never like this, so composed, so assured. When she stopped only a few feet away, he felt the air shift around them. Her voice, when it came, was soft but carried the weight of an entire world. "I want a child from you," she said. The word struck him harder than any blow. The hay bale slipped from his hands, landing with a dull thump in the dirt. His heart hammered wildly in his chest as his mind scrambled to understand what he had heard. Surely he misunderstood. Surely she hadn't said that, not to him, a man of few words, a man who couldn't look a stranger in the eye for more than a few seconds. But her face held no jest, no trick, only intention. He swallowed hard, throat dry, unable to speak, unable to move. The wind brushed past them, carrying away the dust but not the weight of her words. She watched him carefully, as if measuring the storm inside him. Her expression remained calm, but he could see something gentler beneath it, tiredness perhaps, or hope dressed in steel. "You look frightened," she said quietly, not unkindly. He opened his mouth but no sound came out. She nodded slowly, understanding. "I didn't come to harm you." Her tone was firm but soothing, like a river smoothing stone. "I came because you are known to be gentle, and gentleness is needed." The farmer took a shaky step back, boots crunching in the dry earth. His hands found the edge of the wagon, gripping the wood until his fingers ached. He had lived a quiet life on this farm, speaking more to horses than people, avoiding trouble like a shadow avoids the sun. Yet here stood a woman from a world he only understood through whispers, asking something that made his knees weaken. He finally managed to rasp, "Why, me?" The question trembled in the air, barely louder than the breeze. She lowered her eyes for the first time, brushing her fingers across a beaded bracelet on her wrist. "My people are struggling," she said slowly. "Our numbers fall each season. Illness takes some, battles take others. Hope grows thin." She lifted her gaze again, showing the truth behind her calm exterior. "I cannot stand and watch my tribe fade. I will not let the next generation die before it begins." The ache in her voice was quiet but impossible to ignore. The farmer stared at her, heart caught between fear and sympathy. He had never imagined being part of such a request. Not in 1,000 lifetimes. She continued, voice steadying again. "I watched you," she admitted, "not to spy, to see who you are." She gestured toward his barn. "You treat your animals with care. You treat your land with respect. You never strike in anger. You carry no cruelty in you." Her eyes softened. A child needs such qualities. A tribe needs them too. He felt heat rise to his face, embarrassed by praise he didn't believe he deserved. All his life he had been called quiet, awkward, harmless. No one had ever called him gentle like it mattered. No one had ever looked at him like he held something valuable inside him. He wanted to deny her words, to say she was mistaken, but his voice failed again. Instead, he shook his head slightly, overwhelmed by a storm of emotions he couldn't name. Seeing his struggle, she took a small step back to give him space. "I know what I ask is strange," she said, and heavy. Her expression grew thoughtful. "I did not expect an answer in one breath. I only needed to ask, to try." The honesty in her tone disarmed him more than any demand could have. She wasn't here to force anything. She wasn't here to take. She was here because she needed hope and, somehow, impossibly, she saw that hope in him. The farmer wiped his palms on his trousers, feeling the tremble in his hands. He had lived his 35 years with predictable rhythms, planting, harvesting, feeding animals, mending fences. Nothing in his life had prepared him for this moment. But as he looked at her, he saw a woman carrying a burden far heavier than his own discomfort. A woman fighting for a future her people deserved. A woman brave enough to cross borders of culture, fear, and expectation to speak her truth. The weight inside his chest shifted, not lighter, but clearer. He cleared his throat softly. "I don't know what to say." The admission felt small, but honest. She nodded once. "Truth is enough." She took a slow breath. "I don't ask for a promise today, only that you think, consider, understand what I am trying to save." Her voice gentled. "And know that I chose you with respect, not desperation." He found himself wanting her to stay, if only to explain more, to ease the swirling confusion inside him. But more than that, he felt a strange urge to protect her not from danger, but from carrying everything alone. Before he could speak again, she turned slightly toward the setting sun. "I will return tomorrow," she said softly. "Whether you have words or not, I will listen." With that, she began to walk away. He watched her silhouette shrink against the horizon. Her figure strong, steady, unwavering. The farmer stood frozen long after she disappeared, the wheat fields whispering around him. His world, once small and predictable, had cracked open. And through that crack, something unexpected, something terrifying and beautiful, was beginning to take root in his heart. The farmer stood rooted in the soft dirt, the echo of her words settling heavily around him like dust after a storm. For a long moment he could only stare at her, unable to understand why fate had chosen him for something so enormous. She saw the confusion, the fear, the trembling uncertainty in his eyes, and her expression softened. She lowered her gaze, her voice becoming quieter, more fragile than earlier. "Not out of desire, out of need," she said again, as if offering him a gentler explanation, one he could hold without fear. Her fingers brushed the fringes of the leather strap tied around her arm, an unconscious gesture that revealed how much courage it had taken for her to approach him. The wind tugged lightly at her hair as she spoke, each word carefully chosen. "My people are fading. Families that once rode across these plains with laughter and pride now walk with grief. Children are few. Illness came last winter and took even more. When I stand among my tribe, I see empty spaces where voices used to be." Her eyes flickered with pain she rarely allowed anyone to witness. The farmer felt his breath grow unsteady. He had never known what it felt like to belong to a large family, much less a tribe. His world had always been quiet, just the land, the animals, and the ghosts of memories he never talked about. Yet hearing her speak stirred something inside him, something that felt strangely protective. She continued, her words steady, despite the weight they carried. "Strength alone cannot save us. We need new life, new hope. The next generation must be born, or my people will someday exist only as a story told by strangers." He swallowed hard, overwhelmed by the enormity of what she was saying. She lifted her head again, her eyes locking onto his with fierce honesty. "You are kind," she said. "I have watched the way you care for the earth, the way you treat your horses, the way you speak gently even to those who mock you for your quietness." Her voice softened. "Kindness is rare. It is more valuable than strength. A child deserves to begin life with such gentleness." Her words felt like a stone placed carefully into his hands, heavy, but not crushing. The farmer looked away, struggling to find balance between the truth of her need and the sheer impossibility of what she was asking. He had never been sought out before, never been chosen for anything important. People rarely noticed him at all, except to make small talk or ask for help with a fence. Yet here was a woman from a world he barely understood, placing her trust in him as though he were someone of significance. His palms grew damp, and his heartbeat thudded loudly in his ears. Sensing his battle, she stepped to the side, giving him space. Her voice lost none of its strength, but it carried compassion now, a gentleness that matched what she saw in him. "I know this frightens you," she said softly. "It would frighten many men. But I came to you because you are not ruled by pride or rage. Your spirit is steady. A life begins from steadiness, not from force." She glanced at the horizon as if drawing strength from the vastness of the land. "This is not a demand. It is a request made with respect." The farmer pressed a hand to his forehead, the weight of the moment twisting his thoughts. He tried to imagine being responsible for a child, for a future, for someone else's hope. It felt impossible. He had never even imagined marriage, let alone fatherhood. He had always believed himself too quiet, too awkward, too small for such roles. But when he looked at her again, the pain behind her composure, the bravery in her eyes, his heart softened despite his fear. She wasn't here out of selfishness. She was here out of desperation, held together with dignity. A long silence settled between them. The golden light of late afternoon wrapped around their figures, turning the fields warm and soft. She stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "I know the frontier is cruel. We all carry wounds from it. But sometimes it gives us something unexpected." Her gaze lingered on his face with something gentle. "I see good in you. A child born from good has a chance at surviving this land." There was no manipulation in her tone, only quiet truth. He felt his throat tighten. For the first time in his life he felt seen not as a quiet farmer or a man no one remembered at social gatherings, but as someone who mattered. He didn't know how to respond. He could only stare, the conflict inside him clearer than words. She didn't push. Instead, she looked toward the mountains, rising in the distance, their silhouettes carved by the fading light. "If you say no," she said, "I will walk away with understanding. If you say yes, you give my people a chance to breathe again." The farmer's voice finally emerged, rough and unsure. "I don't know how to help." She turned to him, her expression patient. "You do not need to know everything today," she said. "All I ask is this. Do not turn away from the need of another human being. Think, sit with the idea. Let the land speak to you, as it always has. She paused, letting the silence settle into meaning. I will return tomorrow with the sunrise. You need not decide before then. Asterisk, she began to move away, her steps quiet but purposeful. He watched her walk toward the tree line, her silhouette growing smaller against the deepening sky. A strange ache grew in his chest. Not fear, not duty, but something heavier, something that felt like the beginning of understanding. He didn't know what his answer would be, but he knew that her words, her courage, and her quiet plea for hope had rooted themselves deep within him. Asterisk, when she finally disappeared into the shadows of the forest. He stood alone in the hushed field. The sun dipped below the horizon, leaving him surrounded by fading light and unanswered questions. The farmer placed a hand over his heart, feeling the unfamiliar weight settling there. Tomorrow, she would return. And by then, he would have to face not only her request but the new sense of purpose awakening inside him. Asterisk, the cottonwood tree stretched its branches wide like a guardian of old stories, its leaves shimmering in the late-day breeze. The Apache woman sat with quiet grace, adjusting the folds of her newly changed dress deep crimson red, woven with traditional beadwork that caught the sun in tiny flashes. The farmer kept glancing at it, struck by how the color suited her strength and sorrow. She rested her hands in her lap, calm but expectant, waiting for him to find the right words. He had never shared anything with a woman before, let alone something as meaningful as trust. Asterisk, the farmer picked at the bark beside him, trying to gather the courage that the day seemed to demand. He didn't know how to navigate this world of emotion and responsibility, but something in her presence made him want to try. She watched him carefully, sensing his quiet storm. I didn't come to frighten you, she said softly. I came because you feel safe to me. Her words struck deeper than she realized. All his life, he had been overlooked, underestimated, and called shy. No one had ever said he was safe. Asterisk, she shifted slightly, the red dress rustling against the grass as she looked out at the horizon. Our children grow up learning the stories of courage, she said, but courage can look like many things. It can be a warrior on horseback, or a man who listens when someone is hurting. The farmer exhaled, the tension in his shoulders softening. Perhaps he did have something to offer, even if it wasn't boldness or swagger. Maybe there was strength inside him after all, quiet, steady, and real. Asterisk, as the afternoon sun dipped lower, painting the plains in warm gold, she told him more about her people. She spoke of long winters, dwindling families, and the fading echoes of songs once sung by many voices. He listened carefully, absorbing every detail. Her tribe was fighting to survive in a world changing faster than they could keep up with. The farmer felt a heaviness in his chest, not of fear, but of understanding. She wasn't asking for him, she was asking for the future. Asterisk, he leaned back against the tree, feeling the rough bark press into his spine. I've lived alone a long time, he admitted quietly. I never thought I'd be part of something bigger than myself. She turned to him, eyes warm. You already are, she murmured. Every kindness you've ever given has shaped someone's life. The truth in her words stirred something he had buried years ago. He wasn't just a shy man tending fields in silence. He was someone who could matter. Asterisk, she touched the hem of her red dress, smoothing it thoughtfully. I changed into this, she explained shyly, because in my culture, red means strength and renewal. I wanted to show you that I'm here, in honesty, not in desperation. The farmer swallowed hard. He had expected her request to be rooted in duty, but now he saw the human heart beneath it. She wasn't asking him to fill a void. She was offering him a place in her story, one woven with courage and survival. Asterisk, they sat in silence for a long time, the wind whispering through the branches above them. The world around them felt distant, as if the plains themselves were holding their breath. Finally, he turned to her, voice steady despite the tremble beneath it. If anything happens between us, he said carefully, it has to grow from trust and respect. Her eyes shone with something like relief. That is all I hoped for, she said, a beginning built on truth, not fear. Asterisk, she shifted, closer, not touching him, but sitting near enough that he could feel the warmth of her presence. You think of yourself as shy, she said gently, but I have met many men. The loud ones speak much and mean little. The quiet ones carry the strongest hearts. The farmer felt heat rise to his cheeks, unused to being seen so clearly. He had always believed his silence made him weak, but she saw strength where he saw only uncertainty. Asterisk, the shadows grew longer as the sun fell behind the distant hills, painting the sky in streaks of red and orange that matched the color of her dress. She looked toward the horizon, then back at him. Whatever future comes, she said softly, it should come from a place where neither of us feels alone. The farmer nodded slowly. For the first time, he realized how lonely he had been, how long he had lived behind walls, built from timidity and habit. Maybe this woman, this moment, was his chance to step outside them. Asterisk, when night began to settle, the first stars glimmered overhead like distant fires guiding lost travelers. She rose gracefully, brushing the grass from her dress. I will leave the choice to you, she said. Not because I doubt myself, but because whatever path we take must be walked together. He stood as well, taller than he felt moments ago. The fear inside him had softened into something steadier, something almost like resolve. He met her gaze with quiet determination. If I'm going to give you anything, he said, voice warm and sure, it'll start with trust, not fear. And if you stay, I'll try to be a man worthy of the hope you bring. For the first time that day, she smiled a real smile, tender and bright. The wind lifted her red dress, wrapping the moment in wild beauty. Under the vast western sky, something fragile yet powerful began to take shape between them. A bond built not on obligation, but on possibility.